All right, we got tons to get to this morning with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, and I'll share with you a conversation I had with Attorney Thomas DeVore after yesterday's emergency hearing in Effingham challenging the state's gun ban and registry law that Governor J.B. Pritzker enacted last week. Quick headline, no decision yet, but the decision's coming by Friday evening. So we'll get to the latest on that coming up here in just moments. But I need to start here with news that's developing overnight down in the Hillsborough area. People not familiar with central Illinois, there's a lot of smaller communities outside of Springfield and Decatur and Peoria and Bloomington. Hillsborough is a rural community. I want to say they've got, like 5,000 people. I'm actually from the Litchfield area. Grew up, went to middle school and high school there after moving there from St. Louis. But it's a small farming community. And when you have something like a prison, it's a major driver for jobs and for careers. And they have the Graham Correctional Center down there. And overnight, we had news that 18 employees being treated after being exposed to what's being called a foreign agent. Not sure exactly what that is, but there's speculation out there that this is possibly fentanyl that's being shipped into the mail by some inmates getting mail that could be laced with fentanyl. This is obviously a developing situation. We are sure to get more on this, and you've got the unions for the various affected employees sounding off, talking about how there was lightheadedness, dizziness, complications with breathing, people becoming sick, complaining of nausea. So you have people taken to the Hillsborough area hospital, according to some reports, and even some others taken to St. Francis Hospital in Litchfield. And all of this transpiring yesterday afternoon in that small community with a major employer, again, that is the Graham Correctional Facility in that area. And we touched on this issue back in September when I talked with Scot Ward. He's with the Illinois Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 263, which represents corrections employees. And when we talked, it was specifically about his concerns of not enough being done in Illinois correctional facilities to combat the issues facing correctional staff. And one of those issues is fentanyl, a very potent synthetic opioid that just a very minor amount can cause an overdose. All right, like the type of overdose that you would need Narcan for. And the reports are down in Graham, there were police being told to bring as much Narcan as they could. Again, these are all developing reports, and it could change, and we'll get more information as the sun rises this morning. But the issue has been raised months ago, and when I talked with Scot Ward from Lodge 263, he laid out some of their main concerns when it comes to the issue of fentanyl making its way into the prison's mail system, mail that's meant for inmates. Here's some of what he had to say.
Well, other than your basic assaults that happen that the media and actually the society itself never hear about, it's synthetic drugs. And for those that don't understand what synthetic drugs and how it's being processed and put into the penal system, it's through soaked paper. So they'll make any letter and write a letter like you would to anyone, and then they take this K2 fentanyl-based synthetic drug and soak it in the paper. And once it dries, they mail it in to the offender like it's normal mail. They've even gone to the extent of using fake lawyer firm and all that kind of stuff to make it look like legal mail, because the department has a separate policy on how they handle and basically we open up the legal mail directly in front of them. We don't read it. We just make sure there's no items of contraband. But being able to detect this type of paper is tough. And not only that, it needs to be with PPE gear on, because so that fentanyl gets into your skin, and obviously this is where the Narcan and people of overdosing issues have taken play.
So again, this is a conversation I had with Scot Ward from the Corrections Lodge 263, Fraternal Order for Corrections Employees, and he's raising this back in September of last year, where he pushed for Illinois Department of Corrections officials to change their policies. Because he was hearing of stories from various corrections facilities across the state last fall that this was a growing concern, that there were some prison staff being exposed to fentanyl through laced mail that's meant for inmates, and then those employees and the inmates having to be revived. And we're talking about this again because of what's transpiring down in the Hillsborough area at the Graham Correctional Facility, where the reports are that at least 18 employees had to be treated at area hospitals after being exposed to some kind of foreign agent, though we don't have all the details quite yet. Expecting to get an update at some point from the Department of Corrections. But Scot Ward yesterday, or last September, I should say, when I chatted with him, he talked about the need for some policy changes when it comes to dealing with mail for inmates.
It could be a policy change that I would say the director it would be the directors that would really start it. Obviously, it has to be approved by the governor's office because they put that, whoever director's in play obviously is picked by that person. So it kind of has to coincide with their policy mindset. But yes, you could change it legislatively as well, where it wouldn't matter what director was in there. Just stop allowing paper mail inside a facility. You could mail it to the department, and several states are doing this. The department has a central hub location, and a company, an outside agency, or it could even be department members, but you have to have proper overhead venting and things like that. But they have the mail come to a central location. They scan it to a tablet, and it would be emailed directly to the offenders. Now, the offenders have the capability of buying tablets at this point, and there's certain things that they're limited to do. But there's also companies out there that are willing to give the tablets because they would make money on songs purchased and things like that from the offender. So it would equal out what it would cost them to give the offender the tablet for free, is my point. And that would alleviate any real paper going into the facility. And I mean, that basically cuts it dry right there. But other states and other agencies, let's say the federal system, for instance, we can use Thompson, Illinois. Thompson, Illinois went on a satellite program, and they Xerox copied everything, had it all into one mailroom. All the people were trained specifically how to handle that mail and, what they needed to do. They Xerox copied everything, sent the Xerox copy to the offenders, and then destroyed those other copies. Nothing happened for a 90-day period. It went to zero. The first month after that pilot program was gone, someone died at Thompson with an overdose. So that tells you right there that it's a problem. It's not just Department of Corrections in Illinois. It's corrections in general. It's the new way to get drugs in. They don't have to bring them in on visits or convince some officer to, break the rules. This is just another easier format that's tough to trace it back to who's actually sending it, and really nobody gets caught.
Again, that's Scot Ward, a conversation I had with him back in September where he was raising the issue of soaked mail that's soaked with fentanyl getting into the state's prison system. And we seem to have that being a major issue down in Hillsborough. Again, that's just a developing story. Expect to get more details on that as the sun comes up this morning. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY. Follow me on Twitter, Bishop on Air, also on YouTube, Bishop on Air, and stay up to date on what's going on.